Because here in the real world, we are dealing with inflation. On a daily, hourly basis, you know that things are costing more than they did last week, last month, and certainly last year. Certainly, household bills are copping it, so much so that they even have to recognise it in the Channel 9 newspapers. The ABC, however, tells you about how you can save money during this process. But guess what? It's going to get worse because power prices are about to soar yet again. And even one of the energy companies, Origin Energy, that last week was trying to win us over with a want to get back into coal, is already openly increasing their bills. Now, on top of this inflation situation is the reality of the politics that has been played over the past few years. Does every Australian deserve a pay rise? Sure, if they work hard enough and if they're willing to offer more productivity for it, I don't have a problem with it. But there is going to be a structural problem if everyone gets a pay rise at once, which is why there was a lie that everyone was going to get a pay rise. Best case scenario, there was to be an increase for the 1.6 million people on the minimum wage. And no one can pretend forever that the minimum wage that was okay even a couple of years ago helps when everything costs more. But surprise, surprise, there has been a flow-on effect after the Labor Party backed in the union movement to increase that minimum wage by 5.1%. Unions now in the sectors that aren't covered by the minimum wage are now trying to put forward a 6% claim in industries that don't pay the minimum wage, particularly things like the construction and power sectors. Now, business groups, in response to all of this, have said that locking in a wage increase of 6% a year is going to fuel inflation. It's going to lead to higher and higher interest rates. It's almost like I warned that this would happen. Not that people don't deserve a pay rise, but if everyone gets one at once, the cost of doing business goes up. The cost of doing business is passed on to the customer. The customer is already feeling it when it comes to inflation. And the higher interest rates, the higher inflation goes, the faster interest rates rise. And the reality is that while they're nowhere near the 17% of the 1990s, people weren't borrowing more than $1 million to buy a two-bedroom unit in some of our capital cities in the 1990s. All of this will get worse. If the federal government can somehow magically fix it, well, then they'll easily win another election after that. But you and I both know that they can't. They are caught in a scenario here where you are seeing that the government is being run by the union movement that, of course, has 50% of the say in how the Labor Party works. Put simply, it is their job to do the union's bidding. Now, I know that there are more people who earn a wage than have to pay for someone's wage, but at a point in time, business cannot consistently find more money. The same people who, as I've told you before, of the 23 people in the federal cabinet, just 2 have small business experience of running their own small business. One is, well, somebody who just has it on their bio. Another is a one whose small business experience was launching their own wine label while a senator. They now believe that superannuation should be increased to 15%. Now, that's the type of decision you make when, firstly, you don't have to pay the increased money, but secondly, you live in a world where it is wages plus superannuation. For millions of Australians, their superannuation is part of their wages. And while, yes, 15% of their lifetime wages, if it goes up in the first few years of your of your working life, means more money for your retirement, the reality is that it's less money that you get to take home each and every week or month, depending on how you are paid, for millions of workers. So you end up in a scenario where if you work in a unionised workforce, where maybe you've got a scenario of wage plus super, it can be absorbed. If, like 90% of Australian workers, you don't work for you're not part of a workforce that is a membership of a union, guess what's going to happen? Take-home pay goes backwards while the bills go up. Everything from lettuce to power to paying off your home loan. It's particularly bad in the United States right now, where yet again they have hit a new high, the worst numbers in 40 years. But of course, don't blame Joe Biden for overstimulating the economy with trillions of dollars. It's all Putin's fault.
I understand Americans are anxious, and they're anxious for good reason. I was raised in a household when the price of gasoline rose precipitously. It was the discussion at the table. It made a difference when food prices went up. But we've never seen anything like Putin's tax on both food and gas.
But look at this graph from the far right-wing newspaper, the New York Times, that shows you about inflation in the United States. It stretches from the 1960s to 2020. On the far right of your screen, when the numbers start going up, is, guess what? The end of 2020, the start of the Biden administration, and all the way to where we are today. Last time I checked, Putin didn't invade Ukraine at the end of 2020. The United States changed its government.